Oh, I don't see it. Oh, there we go. Live now. Okie dokie, artichoke. Let me get down to comment section. And we're good to go. One watching now. All right, can you hear me being scared?
I can hear you.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Body Count Podcast. The podcast where we talk about our favorite horror movies and we just get into the meat and potatoes of the movies we love scene by scene. So sit back, relax, it's going to be a bloodbath. I am We Shouldn't Be Here, and joining me right now is the Mr. the Famous Being Scared. What's going on, my friend?
Not much, just chilling.
You ready to talk about some scary movies?
Hell yeah, man.
I know. I can't wait. Ever since we came up with this idea, it was like, we have to just do this. And I don't care if we mess up. I don't care if we sound goofy or stupid or people like it or don't like it. I'm doing this for us. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing this because of the fact that we love horror movies.
For sure, man. That's why I'm doing it.
You know what's a trip, though, is that we used to do a podcast together
I know. I don't
back
think
in 2016.
I don't think people really know that we did that, but we did, and it was so much fun.
It was the best time in the world back in 2016. Movie Men podcast, or yeah, Movie Men podcast. That was fun. But you know what? This is going to be an all horror movie podcast. We're not going to do regular movies unless, maybe we feel like it, because why not?
As long as people die in it, because it's called Body Count. But
Body count for sure. All right. Are you ready to start this, my friend?
I'm ready.
All right. The movie that we are going to review is 30 Days of Night. This movie was directed by David Slade. It stars Josh Hartnett and Melissa George. One more thing, everybody listening. This is raw. So in a normal podcast, that pause that I just made right there would have been edited out. But we are not editing. This is all raw. So just bear with us. So this movie came out on October 19th, 2007. And it had a budget of $30 million. Do you know how much this movie made? Being Scared?
I have no clue. How much?
75.5 million.
Damn.
So they made $45 million off this movie.
It's just crazy to me when you find out like the budget of movies, and it's like, would you say this one was 32 million?
Just 30 million.
30 million. How like $30 million? Like what cost that much? You know what I mean? Like that's a lot of money, dude. Like if you watch the movie, like what cost that much in the movie that was like millions and millions of dollars? I don't know. I
Well,
don't know.
first
Maybe
off,
I don't know, dude. That's just crazy to me.
well,
$30
first
million.
Yeah, 30 million. Well, because you got to think about it, for all the costumes, all the design, the set pieces, the set stages, all that good crap. Not to mention, you have to pay your star actors. They're going to get a
That's
few
what it
million
is,
dollars.
dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It's freaking Josh Hartnett was like, all right, I'll do it for
Oh, yeah.
$25 million.
Dude, back in 2007, Josh Hartnett was like the tits. Like he was the main dude. You know what I mean? Wasn't he
Yeah.
with Scarlett Johansson?
I don't know, but dude, I've always liked Josh Hartnett, dude. I'm wondering, like, what happened? How come he fell off the map? Good actor, like, just really fun to watch. I don't know.
Handsome devil. I must say. I don't know, man. A lot of people have their rise in fame, then they do about, 8 movies back to back, and then a year later you see maybe 1 or 2, and then one like a year later, and then they're gone. And then it's
Yeah,
like the new person's up.
it's weird.
Yeah, it's totally weird. So, this is going to be different. I've never done a podcast like this before. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the plot of this movie, and we're going to talk about it pretty much scene by scene and share our thoughts with what we thought about this movie. But before we do that, we want to share some movie trivia about 30 Days of Night. So Being Scared, you can start first, man.
All right. Just 1 second. Let me get some of that going real quick. All right. So one fact about 30 Days of Night that's pretty interesting to me is that the vampires speak in the movie, the vampires speak a completely original language. It was actually created for the movie, for the film, with the help of a linguistics professor. Like, that's absolutely crazy.
Why would
Like,
someone need a linguistics professor to teach a made-up language?
I don't know, dude, but that's pretty cool. Like, they actually created a language just for the vampires. I just thought that they were just making random sounds when I watched it.
It was like this. Oh,
Yeah.
All right, it's my turn to share a fact or two. All right, so this one is Josh Hartnett did his own stunts, and Melissa George did most of her own driving, which to me is insanely impressive because if you remember the stunts of this movie, Josh Hartnett does a lot of like fist fighting towards the end of it.
Yeah.
And Melissa George, there's a lot of times where she's like speeding down the road in her SUV, like trying to get away from vampires and stuff. So that's pretty impressive that the actors actually did that stuff.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah. You got another one?
Yeah. Let me see here. Huh. That's interesting. Most of the night shots in this movie were actually shot during the day. Like, they used special, camera, I don't know, special stuff to make it look like night, but it was actually day.
Wow,
Huh.
really?
Yeah.
That's insane. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess like why
That's
would you
weird.
shoot in the dark?
Why would they not just shoot it at night? That's weird.
That is weird. I don't
Oh,
know.
another one, real quick. This one's short. The whole movie was filmed in less than a month, or less than 3 months, in 80 days. The whole movie.
Dang, that's fast.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, I don't really know how fast movies are usually shot, but that seems like pretty damn fast.
You said 80 days?
Yeah.
That's less than 3 months. That's insane. Like, I guess I always imagined that movies would be shot over like a year and a half. You know what I mean? Like giant movies must take forever to be, made. Well, maybe though, if you think about it, maybe it's just the actual shooting takes only 80 days, but then it takes like a year and a half or so to like edit it and special effects and all that stuff.
True. Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
dude, can you imagine, like, we spend a lot of time editing just like our YouTube videos. Can you imagine like a, a theatrical movie? Oh my god.
Yeah. But could you also imagine getting paid like $8 million to do a YouTube video? You know what I mean? Like, it's probably more worth it to edit a full length movie than it is one of our videos.
Oh yeah.
All right, I'm going to share one more fact and then we're going to get on to what this movie is all about. This was shot in New Zealand because this movie actually takes place in Alaska, but it was shot in New Zealand, and nearly half of the cast is Kiwi or Australian.
What? It didn't
Yeah.
even take place really in Alaska?
I did not assume that it did.
I did. I really did, dude. Like, they did a good job. It really looks like freaking Alaska to me. I don't know.
Oh, no doubt.
But
My
I guess
son.
that's why it costs $30 million. I just heard your baby scream in the background.
Oh, that was my 3-year-old son acting like a baby.
Okay. Well, I just, if they're below, like, if they're under like 10 years old, I refer to them as babies. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
they
weird.
act like babies.
They do, dude.
All
Even when
right.
they're like 13, they do.
Huh. Yeah, they're just big babies at that point. All right, we're gonna get into the plot of this movie. You ready to break this down, Mr. Scared?
Let's do it.
All right. The town of Burrow, Alaska is preparing for its annual 30 Days of Night, a period during the winter where there was a month-long polar night. As the town gets ready, a stranger, played by Ben Foster, rows ashore from a large ship and sabotages the town's communications and transport to the outside world. This movie opens up. I remember after it says 30 Days of Night, it just opens up on just a straight face shot of this ugly, creepy looking dude just staring off at this town in Alaska. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think I do. He's in the movie, isn't he?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's wrong with a man wanting a little bit of meat? Something to drink.
Dude, Dude, you do good impressions, man. Honestly.
Oh, you best believe I'm going to be trying my hardest on every movie that we do. You won't give me something to eat. Something to,
Something to
something
drink.
to drink. What's wrong with a man want a little bit of fresh meat?
Dude, honestly, the guy in that movie reminds me of you.
Oh, great. Great. Thanks.
I
That
mean,
dude's a psychopath.
not his looks, but just like his mannerisms and stuff.
But it opens up with him. He's staring across the town, looking at Alaska. And then he starts walking through the snow towards the town. And you can see off in the distance, there's this insanely weird, dark, foggy, shadowy, like ship, like pirate ship off in the distance. And you're like, what the F is that? What could that be? Because, obviously we know this movie is about vampires. But if you didn't know it was about vampires, you would just be like, oh, that must be like some sort of ship that he came in or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So he's looking down on the town, and what he does is he somehow steals a bunch of like satellite phones and he lights them on fire. So that way the people can't connect to people outside of Alaska. Remember that?
I don't actually. I don't recall that part.
Well, the sheriff of Barrows, his name is Eben Olson, played by Josh Hartnett. And let me first say, Eben? Are you kidding me? Why can't you just name him Evan with a V? His name is Eben.
Wait, what? His
His
name is not Evan?
No, it's Eben with
Dude,
a B.
his name is Evan.
Okay, no, it's not.
It's really not? Wait, what?
It's Eben. It's
What
ridiculous.
the hell? Dude, this entire time, I swear, I thought it was an Evan, dude. I'm looking at it right now. You're right. That is freaking weird. Why would they do that?
I have no clue, man.
It sounded like Evan the whole movie. You couldn't even tell that they were saying Eben.
Well, this being one of my top 5 favorite horror movies of all time, I've seen this probably a handful of times, probably 20 times or so, easy. And I can tell, yeah, because like I remember after the 10th time watching it, I was like, there's a point when his little kid brother, he's like, Eben, and I was like, what is he saying? And I turned on subtitles and it said Eben, and I was like, what? That's weird.
That's not even a name. What the hell?
It is in this movie.
I guess.
So him and this other deputy of the sheriff or whatever, they're the ones who find this pile of burnt phones, and they're looking down at it and they're like, who could have done this? Like, why would somebody burn all of these satellite phones? Like, maybe it's just a prank to get back at their parents, like an FU. And they're like, I don't know. It's a pretty clever trick, though. Like, whatever. And so they're driving back into town because they're on the outskirts of Alaska, and they're driving back into town. You can see that the sun is starting to go down, and they stop off at this side of the road where it says like Barrows, Alaska, population, I don't know, 340 or something like that. And then the other sheriff, he like switches it to like 110 or something like that. And Eben is like, why do you keep changing that? No one's going to see it for 30 days. And he's like, I don't know. It's a tradition. You know what I mean? And they're like, okay. And you can kind of just see that the way that this town works is that they prepare for this. This isn't just like Christmas is coming once a year or something like that. This is like a big deal. 30 straight days, no sunshine. It's pure darkness. And people flip. People want to get out. They want to they're like, I don't want to be stuck here. You know what I mean? I want to be gone, and I'll come back after that 30 days. And a lot of the shops close. They don't share alcohol. They don't, have fresh meat. It's just 30 days. It really affects this town.
No alcohol. What the hell?
A quote from the bartender lady. She goes, folks have enough trouble seeing in the dark. They don't need alcohol to add to that. And that's when he's like, you don't give me no meat.
Dude, honestly, like, it kind of sounds intriguing. Like, it would be kind of interesting to go through this. As a matter of fact, yes. I've known about this 30 Days of Night in Alaska since before this movie came out. And I've always thought that was really weird. And just, that would be so weird to like experience a whole month of just night. But they take away alcohol. Like, that would be the one thing that would make it tolerable.
At least me. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But honestly, I'm kind of curious. If I had the opportunity, I would do it. I would actually try to do it and see how long I can last, as long as I had the opportunity to leave if I wanted to,
Oh, no doubt.
Don't you think that would you do it? Would you
Oh, in
try
a
to do it?
heartbeat. Yeah, well, I mean, it's
Well,
probably a lot more boring without vampires attacking, but, I would definitely, like
oh no, I would definitely want the vampires just for entertainment reasons, but
yeah, like, if I knew I wouldn't get hurt. It's like I've always wanted to be in a tornado as long as I know that I wouldn't get, like, flung around or killed, you know what I mean? Like, I've always just wanted to, like, see one up close, but, dreamers can be dreamers, I guess.
yeah.
So, the main 2, cops, they're driving back into town, and, they, uh they learned that Eben's estranged wife, Stella, missed the last plane to get out of Alaska. Because if you remember this scene well, she is trying to hurry up and get herself to the airport because she, like I said, she doesn't want to be stuck here. She does not want to be in Alaska for 30 days with no light. And so she's speeding down this, this ice path trying to get to the airport, and then all of a sudden the first jump scare of the movie happens, and it's like this giant, looks like a giant chainsaw vehicle, like comes off the side, and it just like rams into the side of her vehicle, and it's like crunching up the front of her vehicle and stuff. And it's just this guy who was just like, oh, I'm sorry, Stella, like the brakes haven't worked very well on this or whatever. And she's like stunned, like she's like like you would be if you just got hit by some giant chainsaw vehicle.
Right.
And she's like tripping out, and she like looks over at him, and she's just like, I'm fine, I'm just like, freaked out. But then she quickly realizes, like, oh my god, like I need a ride to the airport, you know what I mean? Because like I do not want, like, all she cares about is getting to that airport. She does not want to miss that flight.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, my phone locked out while I was trying to read it. And so Eben's taking care of some stuff, being a policeman and everything, and all of a sudden his phone rings. And it's funny because he's leaving the police station, and when his phone rings, all you can see is like the vehicle backing up away from the police station, and then all of a sudden it just like stops, and you're like, why did he like stop the vehicle? And then it shows the inside of the vehicle, and he's sitting there and he's looking down at his phone, and he looks kind of like defeated. You know what I mean? He looks a little like, he looks irritated. He's looking down at his phone, and you can tell, uh-oh, there was some drama that happened between him and this Stella, apparently, because when she's calling, he doesn't even know if he wants to answer the phone. You remember that?
Yeah.
And he's looking down at it, and he takes a breath, and he's just like,
yeah.
It's hello.
Yeah.
Huh.
I do remember. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a little while, at least a year since I've seen the movie, but I've seen it multiple times.
Yeah.
I do remember that at the beginning of the movie, they were like, you could tell that there was like history between them, and they weren't really on like the greatest terms.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when she's calling, he picks up the phone, and he even does this pause where he hits the answer button, and he holds the phone up to his ear, and he doesn't even say anything yet, probably for a good like 3 or 4 seconds, which, normally people say beep, hello, you know what I mean? And he just answers it, and he's like, yeah, it's me. And she's like, hey, I need a ride to the airport, pretty much. And he's like, wait, you're in town and you didn't want to talk, you know what I mean? And so then he's like, hold on one second. And he gets back out of his vehicle, and he kind of shouts across the yard to his other, deputy that he works with. And he's like, hey, Stella needs a ride to the airport. Can you do it? And the guy, whose name's Billy, he's like, yeah, I can do it. And then Eben gets back in his vehicle, and he goes, hey, Billy's going to come pick you up and take you to the airport. And he goes, let me know when you actually like want to talk. And it's kind of like one of those like, ooh things, because he's kind of pissed off that she was like in town and like didn't try to like talk about their marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like, I know that feeling when, you were dating somebody in the past or whatever, and you guys break up, and it's just like, you like still care about them and you want to work on it, but at the same time, it's like painful. You know what I mean? Like, the acting in that scene was just like really good to me. I just really like that scene.
Agreed.
What do you think about that?
I agree. I honestly think that the acting, oh dude, I want to talk about the end really bad, but and I know that we'll get there eventually.
Oh,
but
yes.
The acting in this movie is phenomenal from everyone. Dude, especially the end. God, I want to talk about it right now, but I'll wait. I'll be patient.
Yeah. We will definitely talk about it, no doubt. But yeah, the acting in this movie is really good. I mean, there's a few people, I'd say probably the younger brother, which we'll talk about soon, but he's probably the worst actor of the movie. But the rest of it, I don't know, I really like it. So what happens next is Eben gets a phone call, right? And he's like, wait, what's going on? Somebody, which we have an idea of who, but we don't know yet, somebody slaughtered one of the townsfolk's sled dogs.
Yep.
Like murdered them. You remember that? That was like gruesome. Like it didn't show somebody actually like stabbing them or anything, but it was a lot of like cut scenes and just
Yeah.
a lot of blood and like arr, 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 you know, and like you can kind of just like what's going on, you know. And
Yeah.
then but then it does show the dogs like dead and they're like mangled up. It was like pretty sad and disgusting.
Yep.
And you're just what it's doing, it's just building up like, wait, what's going on here? You know, and it's crazy. You know, there's like this dude who's like obviously causing some trouble or whatever. And I remember even Eben, he goes down there to talk to that guy whose dogs just got slayed. And he's like, did you F with anybody, John? And he's like, no. And he's like, well, I'll find out who did this. Like, it's a small town. Like, I'll figure this out. And they're like, I want you to kill that motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, the people are pissed that some dude killed their dogs. So that's where we are in the story right now. Let's see where we're going. Dude, I remember when this movie came out in 2007. I was 17, and I remember I went with my my high school girlfriend to go see this movie. That was a good time. Back when I lived in Carson City.
It came out in 2007.
Yeah.
I was 21. 2021. I don't think that I actually watched it when it first came out. I think it took me a while, but I remember when I watched it, I did know that there were like some kind of like vampire creatures in it or something, and the build up to them was just like so good, you know? Because I've seen like so many vampire movies, dude. I've seen like the really old school ones where they make vampires like kind of more artsy kind of feel, like Interview with the Vampire. And then there's the new generation bull crap, in my opinion, like Twilight kind of crap. And then they had this, and it was just like in between, and it was just like true vampire terror like you've never seen before, you know?
Right.
And when I don't want to, you know, I don't want to get right into it because I don't think you want to yet. You want to follow along with the plot, but dude, like the vampires in this movie were so gruesome and scary. Like it was just so refreshing to watch it, you know?
Yep. And we're going to be coming up to what you're just talking about very, very shortly. But what happens now is Eben is on the search for this whoever killed these sled dogs, you know, which actually, if you think about it, I thought at first when I first saw this movie, I was like, oh, this dude just killed these dogs, like just for no reason, I guess. But they made a point to say that they were sled dogs. Do you know why they killed those sled dogs?
Because they don't want people to be able to leave.
Exactly. So smart. I love that. They burn the satellite phones. They kill sled dogs. It's just brilliant. You know what I mean? Like they don't want people to leave. Like you said, that's a really good way to say it. And I love when movies have like good writing like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I never would have thought about that if I was writing this script. I never would have thought of sled dogs before, but that's a really, really good point. So Eben's on the search for this dude. And this is where we get to the iconic give me something to eat, something to drink. we show up at a bar. And there's this creepy dude. It's the creepy dude from the beginning of the movie. And he's gross. You know what I mean? He looks like he hasn't showered in months or brushed his teeth ever. And he's sitting there and he's requesting some raw meat to eat. And the bartender's like, no, like you only get meat if it's cooked. And they're like, he's like, what's wrong with a man wanting a little bit of meat? And he's like, well, just give me something to drink then. And she's like, no. And there's no raw meat. You're not getting something to drink, because folks have enough time already seeing in the dark, and I'm not going to add alcohol to that. And he gets like pissed off. You remember that? And he like grabs the lady's arm, the bartender lady. And she's like, right. And then all of a sudden you just hear like, you see Eben walk in. And this is where, you know, it shows off that he's like the main dude. He's the star. He's like, you know, the hunk or whatever you want to call it. And he comes in. Yeah, exactly. And the hero, and he comes in and he's just cool. He's a cool cop. And he's like, hey, like let go of the lady. And he's like, he walks up and he sits down at the bar and he's like, hey, why don't you and I go outside and have a little talk or whatever. And that's when the crazy dude looks over and he goes, now what's wrong with the man wanting a little bit of fresh meat? and he and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. He goes, when he grabs the lady's arm, that's when he's like, yo, give me something to eat, something to drink. And then dude, I can say that 10 more times and laugh hard every single time. It's so funny.
Dude, if people in the chat actually do watch this movie, when they hear that part, they're gonna freaking die.
And so then Eben's like, let's go outside, pal. Let's go for a talk, whatever. And the guy doesn't want to go outside. And then so Eben like goes to like grab him to kind of bring him outside. And then he's like, they'll make you take you outside or whatever. And then the dude like pops up. He goes, I'd like to see you try or something like that. And he gets like in his face. And then all of a sudden you hear like like the sound of like a gun clicking.
Yeah.
Or cocking back. And then all of a sudden there's Stella. And she's like, I'd like to see you try that too. Or I'll just blow your head off or something like that. It says something like that. Dude, this movie used to be on Netflix. Did you know that?
It did?
It was on Netflix for like 2-3 months. And now it's off again. I don't know why they did that. It's ridiculous.
Dude, I would have watched it. I did not know that.
Yeah. I watched it like half of it and then I turned it off and I'm like, I'll watch it later. And I went to go watch it again and it was off. This is ridiculous. Netflix sucks. But anyways, and so she's like, I'd like to see you try. And I bet like Eben could like wipe you up and down the streets or something like that, right? And then the crazy dude has this look and he's like, and he like turns around and like goes to attack her. And then Eben, of course, grabs him and like slams his face down onto the bar. And he's like, all right, taking you down to the station, you don't F with my ex-wife or whatever. And so then they go down the station and that's when we're introduced to Eben's grandma and his little kid brother. And I love this scene because if you remember correctly, he goes in there and stuff and locks the dude up in the cell. And then he's talking to his little brother and he like opens up like this drawer and he finds a bunch of weed. You remember that?
No, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, he opens up the drawer and finds a bunch of weed and he's like, hey, I think his brother's name is Jake. He's like, hey, get over here, Jake, or whatever. And he comes over and he's like, what's up? And then Eben looks down at the weed and looks back at him and he goes, and now I know why he wanted to go live with grandma. And he's like, it's for her cancer. And the grandma's like, oh, I didn't know I had a little greenhouse in my growing at my house, did you?
Dude, I need to watch this movie again. I don't remember that at all.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happens. But pretty much then we cut down to a scene where there's like an old guy, his name's Gus, and he's like a control tower type of dude, and he's just kind of like off in his own little portable whatever that he's working at. And he just hears some weird noises. You remember that? And all of a sudden he's like a fat dude with like a kind of white hair and a white beard. And he goes out to like investigate and he takes a flashlight out with him. And as he's like looking around, like a silhouette of something runs by super fast and it's like, rah! And he's like, huh? And then like all of a sudden like, you know what I mean? Like the noises they make or something. And then he's like, huh? And he like turns around again and he's looking for it and stuff. And then all of a sudden, like you just see like a bunch of vampires like attack him. You remember that? They like circle him and then like attack him. And and like one pounces on him and just like start ripping his freaking neck open. And you're like, whoa, like hecka scary, right? And then you're like, dang, what the F? And then it shows another scene where like these two guys and this girl are like getting off work or something at some factory. And you remember this scene?
I believe I do. Keep going.
They start walking out and they're flirting and I think they're drinking or maybe just flirting or something, right? And one of the guys is like, hey, you should come back to my place. And the other guy's like, no, you need to come back to my place. And she's like, hey, stop fighting over me. Maybe Beth can have me. And she's like, just a super slut, right? And he's like, oh, you're a dirty little bitch. And she's like, yeah, like stupid scene, of course, stupid. But that's what happens and stuff. And then they're like, okay, all right, this is what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins comes back to my place. And then they're like, okay. And then so the two dudes are facing off, and they're like, rock, papers. And then right before they do like the third one or whatever, one of the dudes just gets like ripped back into the dark, and they're like, what the F? Like, what the heck?
That.
And then all of a sudden that dude just like falls from the sky and he just like lands on the ground and he's like bloody, like out of his mouth and his neck and stuff. And he's just like, you know, and they're like, oh my God. And then like like another one, it's the other guy, I think, gets taken out. And then the girl is just standing there by herself and she's just like, what the F, you know? And then, all of a sudden again, you see the vampires like coming out from the darkness or something. And, you just know like she's about to get killed. You remember that?
I do. Yep. I do remember those three characters.
That's when you're starting to kind of like be like, oh, okay, now it's starting to happen or whatever, you know? So then Eben and Stella, they're in their vehicle, they're driving down this road or whatever, and you just start hearing like these weird things, you know what I mean? Like the word screaming and stuff. And then there's a point where they like stop and they're like looking forward and they're like, what the F? And they like get out of the car and they're like looking, like I think Stella's looking and she's like, Evan, get in the car. And he's like, huh? And she's like, get in the effing car. And they like get in their car and they like turn around hecka fast and they start driving. And then like one of the vampires starts like chasing their vehicle and it's like running faster than their vehicle. And it like, you remember that?
No.
I
don't remember. I don't remember
I'm
that.
so glad we're talking about this movie.
I don't remember every scene, dude. I mean, it was a long time ago that I watched it.
I'm joking. And so like the vampire pretty much is like chasing their vehicle and it's like faster outrunning their vehicle and it like jumps on the top and it's like punching the top of their vehicle and stuff. And eventually like somehow they get the vampire off and then they're like, oh my God. And they start like driving back into town. And as they're driving like into town, you just see like things are on fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they things are on fire and all of a sudden like you just see this like bloodbath happening. Like vampires are just starting to like freaking rip through the town and it's just like crazy.
I do remember that.
I know, it's crazy. And I just love it because they have like really cool like shots. Like they have like this point where the people that lost their dog, they're like sitting there and they're like crying over the dog and all of a sudden like a vampire just like smashes through the window. And they're like, what the F? And it's like that bald Asian looking one. And he like gets up and he like looks over at them and stuff. And he just like, he takes his wife and stuff and rips her out of the window. And it's just like people are getting slayed left and right and stuff. And so what happens after that is they're just fighting off these vampires and everything. And eventually they get, there's like a small group of survivors and they get held up in this house and they're like hiding in this house. You remember that?
Yeah.
And they're looking out the window and stuff and they can see vampires on the roofs and everything. And they're trying to like get out and they can't get out. And then what happens is like a blizzard comes down. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And they're like, okay, we need to get out of here. And they can't get through the blizzard. Like the vampires are like hiding through the blizzard or something like that. And then Eben and his small group of survivors are like, we need to get, to the refinery or something like that because the refinery is like, whatever. I don't remember what they say about that and stuff. But one of the scenes that I really like when they're talking before they leave during the blizzard is when Eben goes, there's a reason why we live in Alaska because other people can't. They can't handle the cold, but we can. Like they're like super.
Remember that.
That's my favorite line of the movie for some reason. And so they go on this journey where they have to go to like the convenience store to get supplies. And then they make their way to this oil refinery at the end. And pretty much from there, the vampires just start attacking them. And one of the vampires gets into the oil refinery and they ended up killing, the people end up killing it. And they're trying to figure out like, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? How are we going to save the day pretty much? And, Eben like pretty much comes up with the only idea that he can think of, and he grabs sorry, my throat's all dry. And he grabs like a syringe and he like sucks up the blood from this vampire and he like injects it into his veins. Remember that?
No.
Okay.
Well, wait, like, no, I do.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, dude. I remember that part.
Yeah, and
that's like the only chance that they have.
Yeah, it's the only chance he has because they're like, we can't win. These guys are like way too strong. So Eben's like, I know what I got to do. And so he like takes blood and he like injects it into his veins and he pretty much starts turning himself into one. But he doesn't go like full blown vampire yet. And all of a sudden he like goes out and he like goes one-on-one against the bad guy, like the main bad vampire guy. And that's like an amazing fight, which is really cool that we pretty much thought that like Josh Hartnett does his own stunts. because he fought that dude like with his own stunts, his own choreography. I think that was pretty tight. And so he's fighting him and stuff, and eventually like he wins by like punching him in the mouth and like shoving his hand through his back of his throat and like burning him. And the rest of the vampires are just like, all right, we're done. We're done here. And so he like backs up, they all back up and they leave and stuff, and pretty much they save the day. And like that's kind of like how the movie ends, except for the very last scene where Josh Hartnett and Melissa George, they go to like this cliff, this like lookout where the sun rises and the sun sets, and they're sitting there, and the sun comes up, and Eben and Stella are holding each other, and Eben turns into ash and pretty much dies. And like that's how we wrap up the movie.
Dude, that's the part that I really wanted to talk about. That's the part of the, like, when I think about this movie, that's what I really think about is the end. But before I like get into that real quick, I don't know, dude. I don't know if it's your internet or mine, but you sound like scratchy. Like I don't know, maybe it's mine. I don't know, but you sound kind of scratchy. But anyway, just letting you know. Okay. But yeah, when I think about this movie, dude, that's what I think of as the end, because that end was just, there was something about it. I think it's honestly because like it was kind of, it wasn't that big of a shock to me at the end when he injects himself and becomes one, and like to defeat the head vampire. Like that was really cool and I liked it, but it wasn't that big of a shock. But the end, when he actually, like, spoiler alert, like when he actually dies, that was crazy. Like, and the way that he did, like, he just sat with his ex-wife, and you know, like at the beginning of the movie, they're not really that cool, but you know, at the end of the movie, like they come back together and they're like in love and stuff again, and they're like holding each other, and she's just holding him. And you can tell that he's scared, but he's not like, I don't know, dude. Like he's like a manly man. He's like ready to deal with it. And he's just sitting in the sun with his woman, and she's just holding him really tight. And he's like, he starts to just like burn away. And he like, it's so painful that he actually screams. Do you remember that part?
Oh yeah, I do.
He actually like screams, and you're just like, damn, you know? And then like she's holding him, and then he just like, at the end of it, when the sun comes up completely, he's just ash, and she just lets go, and he just like falls apart. Like, I don't know, man. That always really, really got to me. That's the part of the movie that I really remember more than anything. And
yeah, it was an ending that I didn't expect.
Yeah, it was epic, and it was just so good, and it was just so heartfelt, and just like hits you right in the feels. And I was like, damn, you know, like everything they just went through, he didn't even make it. He sacrificed himself, which is always, you know, something that I like to see, like the hero character do. I like to see them like sacrifice and do something that, like, you know what I mean? That would be really difficult to do. But at the same time, you're like, God, like, why couldn't he have just made it, you know?
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. And like I said, it was unexpected because you kind of think that he's somehow going to just like live at the end of it. You know, you think it's going to be over and he's going to figure out a way to like, I don't know, live in the shadows or something, or, you know, I don't know. You just don't expect him to die. Or maybe you expect him to die, but like maybe he like gets effed up so bad in that fight with the main guy that he like just, you know, bleeds out, and they have like one of those moments or something like that. I didn't expect he's going to just take on the full force of the sun and just completely burn it. And the special effects are so amazing at that part.
Yeah, dude. Like,
I love it.
Yeah, it was just so cool and so just like hard to watch, because this whole movie, you're like starting to really care about this guy more than every other character, obviously. And then you just see him like, you know, he's trying to be strong, and he's trying to be like a man, and he's just like holding his wife, and she you know, what really hurts while watching it is that she's holding him. Like, he's got his head down, you can tell that he's scared, and she's holding him, you know, and he's not holding her, she's holding him because she's comforting him. And he like screams because he's going through so much pain as he dies. It's just like, oh my God, you know, it's just, oh, dude, like a really, really good ending. But
Well, you know what's so amazing about the part like where he screams is like if you remember, there's like a really really good piece of music in the background that's
Oh
going on,
yeah,
and it's like really like powerful, like a powerful orchestra, that's going on, like, and it's like pretty mellow but kind of impactful when he's like and he's first starting to like get it, and then like the drums start to come in a little bit, and then like all of a sudden when he's just like then it's like
yeah,
he's getting like effed up, and the music in the background is just going like really loud, and it's just it's really
yeah,
good, and then he flies away, and she just stares off into the sun, and then boom,
yeah.
movie.
And she doesn't even really react. She just holds him tight and just through all of it. Like even when he screams, she doesn't even react really. She just holds him because she knows that he's dying. He's done. It's over. And it's just oh, dude, so hard. Did you know that there's actually a sequel to this movie?
Yes, I did.
But it's bullcrap. it's
Yeah.
it's not good. Like it's got different actors. There's nobody from the original movie that's in it, but the his wife's character is actually um she's in the sequel, but she's played by a different actress. And I actually tried to watch it a couple years ago. And it just was horrible, like one of the worst movies ever. Just a really bad plot, and I don't know. It sucks that they even got the okay to use the name 30 Days of Night because the movie was garbage.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah, like so bad.
Oh man. Hey, am I still scratchy?
No, you're good now.
Okay, I think I was talking too loudly into my mic, so I like stepped back a little bit so you
Oh
could hear
yeah,
me.
you're good now. Do I sound scratchy at all?
No, you sound fine. You just sound like a piece of sex chocolate.
Nice, nice. That's what I try to sound like.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna get to the point where we're going to rate this. So this is how our rating system is gonna go for this show. Since this is the Body Count podcast, we're gonna rate our movies 1 through 10 dead bodies. And if it's
Sounds
a perfect movie, if we give it 10 dead bodies, it's gonna be considered a massacre.
all right. Well, I think that I should go first because since you're the star of the show and you're going to have several different narrators on this show and it's going to be awesome, and I think you should always go last so people because you're the movie man, like you know all about the film. Obviously, you were telling me scene by scene. So I think that you should always go last in your rating so people can look forward to what you think. So I'm going to go first. That's just my opinion though. But
Well, if it
so
comes out me being the boss man, then I'm cool with that.
well, you're definitely the boss man. All
I'm just
right,
kidding.
so I'm gonna give this movie out of 10 bodies. I'm gonna give it a 6, and that's a really high 6. I want to say 7, but 7 to me is leaning more on like the really good side. And this movie to me, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it, but like when somebody says, "What's your favorite horror movie of all time?" Honestly, this movie would not come to mind at all, you know? And but I did enjoy it. Like the ending especially. If I was rating the ending on how many bodies you would want for the ending, I would say freaking Massacre 10 bodies out of 10 for sure. But
Wow.
I'm going to give the movie a 6 bodies out of 10. And I thought it
Okay.
was good, like just above average good, but that's about it because I'm thinking about all the other horror movies that I love, and this movie just doesn't compare to my absolute favorites. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
That's fair. That's fair.
so 6 out of 10 is for me.
Okay, well, thank God it wasn't more because that would have been a massacre. That would have been so sad. Okay, so for me, I'm gonna go the opposite direction of you. Actually, I'm gonna give this a 9 dead bodies.
9?
Like I said, dude, it's one of my top 5 favorite horror movies.
Okay. In your top 5, really?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like I don't know, like you're like if you talk about my favorite horror movie, this one doesn't come to mind, right? But for me, when you talk about my favorite horror movies, this one absolutely comes to mind. It's one of my favorites. There's something about it. I really like the effects in it. I really like the acting. The ending is fantastic, which I mean, honestly, like in horror movies, the endings are usually not that good.
Yeah,
Usually,
you're right
you know
about
what I'm
that.
saying? Like usually, in whatever movie, like it's all about just like we need to figure out a way how to get rid of this ghost, or it's like, you know, shoot Michael Myers at the end, but he's not really dead, and it's like I don't know, like that's kind of dumb to me. But for me, like I like that, you know, the hero wins the fight and he dies with his lady. Like it's just like a romantic story to me. I don't know. I really like it, and it is scary. Like not one part of it is not scary, and the build up to Nightmare Introducing Terror just donated $2.56. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I appreciate that. And it's just really good. I just really like it, and it's not my favorite, but it's definitely up there. And so I'm definitely going to give it a 9 out of 10 dead bodies.
Cool, man. I mean, it's not hard for me to understand. It's a really good movie, but I just, I'm thinking of all my favorites, and I can't bring it up to to them. I just can't do it. I just can't do it.
No, that's fine, and I absolutely respect that. So sorry about my kids in the background.
No, dude,
I figured I'm not doing like a narration, so you know, it doesn't have to be pure quiet in the background.
it's all
But
good, man. Everybody, like your true fans, know who you are, bro. They know that you're a family man. It's all good.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, you give this a 6 dead bodies out of 10. I give it a 9 out of 10, and that's fine with me. So I
You
want to
know
ask.
what? I'm on the verge of just like bumping it up to 7 though. But I don't know. I'm gonna stick with 6, but just everybody know that I kind of want to bump it to 7, but I'm gonna go ahead and just stay strong and stick with 6.
That's fine with me, man. That's fine with me. So okay, I got one more question to ask you pertaining to this movie. And like I said to everybody who's faithfully been listening the entire time so far, um, this was our first episode. Next time, I can guarantee you it's not going to be the same because I'm going to. I pretty much was trying to fill an hour, and so I just kind of rambled on about the plot. But next time, I think I know how I'm going to do this, and there's going to be a better organized order. So this will be towards before we get into the plot of next week on our next movie. But the question that I have is going to be, who's your favorite character and who's your least favorite character of 30 Days of Night?
Favorite character is definitely the main character, Eben, which I don't approve of his name. I think it's ridiculous. But definitely Eben, played by Josh Hartnett. He did. I'm a man in my 30s. Like I always go for the hero character. I don't
Yeah.
know why I said my age and what I am, but like that has anything to do with it. But dude, I always go for like the hero character. I always do. And
No, I agree. I
he's
agree.
definitely in this movie. He's such a badass, and he's the one that gets everybody through it. He's the one that, spoiler alert, sacrifices himself at the end, and he's definitely my favorite. I'd say my least favorite character, honestly, like aside from his wife, every other character, they're not nearly as fun to watch than him. But I will add this. I'd probably say my second favorite character is that one human guy that you were imitating so perfectly. Uh, that was like really wanting to become a vampire but never quite made it.
Right.
He did such a good job. Like that he's a great actor, and his character was really, really fun to watch. So he's probably my number 2. But my least favorite, probably everybody else. We're just forgettable, you know?
Yeah.
What about you?
I thought about this before we started, and Eben is my favorite character. Not like my favorite because he's just like an amazing character, but I just disliked the other characters a lot more. No, you know what? I'm gonna take that down. He's not my favorite. My favorite character is the big, huge, fat, burly guy who, in the beginning of the movie, got a ticket because he was spilling oil into the street, and then towards the middle of the movie, he like hacksaws a bunch of vampires with his like giant freaking like snow plower thing. You remember that guy?
Yeah.
And then he even has this line where they're like, he's like, how do we kill a vampire? They're like, they don't die. And he gets up and he goes, well, neither do I.
Yeah.
Like, I just really like that big burly dude. And
Come on, he's not really your favorite though.
okay, fine. Eben is my favorite, but he's my second favorite. Uh, but my least favorite is probably the younger brother, Jake. I just didn't care for the actor. I didn't care for the portrayal of that guy. But, other than that, yeah, it's okay.
I feel you.
I feel you, G. So this is the point where we're going to get to the very end of the podcast. And I asked earlier for people to call and leave voicemails. Sorry, kids. Call and leave voicemails. And we are going to play those out loud.
Sweet.
Hi, viewer, Blessings Rodriguez. So my thoughts on 30 Days of Nights was actually pretty good. I think they gave all the awesome scare tactics and scare factors. Obviously, when I think of something scary or kind of witty in a way, just because it was a little different from any other vampire scary movies, I thought it was actually pretty cool. All right. Thanks.
Thanks for calling in. Yeah.
Blessing Rodriguez. That was awesome. Thank you so much for calling. That's awesome.
I know, that was freaking super awesome. Like, I was hoping people would call, but I didn't think anybody was going to call. And the fact that you called, Blessing, you've always been a super cool supporter of our channels, and so we really like that kind of stuff.
You have. You know what? You're probably one of my new. You're like my favorite. That was really cool.
Okay, she's my favorite, so she's your second favorite.
Yeah,
I
definitely recognize her in the comment section and your comment section. And
yeah,
that's
very
really,
cool,
really cool. That's really cool that you did that. I like that.
All right, and then we got another one from an unknown number, so I don't know who this is, but he's a man of very little words.
Hey, that's pretty good.
What
did he say?
He says, "Hey, that's pretty good."
Yeah, it was. It was a pretty good movie.
I appreciate that. And this is our final one.
Hey, this is Native Rapper 4360. I would like to say that I'm a very huge fan of your YouTube channel, and your videos are great, man. Keep it up. Keep up really good work. Love the movie, and really hope to hear back from you soon. Bye.
Awesome.
That was Nate. He's obviously a listener of my channel, so I appreciate that. That love and support, man, feels pretty good. So
his name was Nate.
Nate, like Nate Dogg.
Thanks, Nate. That was for We Shouldn't Be Here. But if anybody in here doesn't know, We Shouldn't Be Here is my real life cousin. So just to let you guys know, we're really close. We're really great friends. We're actually blood relatives. We love each other. We're family. And like when you guys support him, that's just makes me really happy. I really like that. So that's why I'm saying thank you to people calling him, and just that's really cool. I don't know. That was such a good idea, dude, to have people call you. At first I was a little like, dude, like that's crazy, but that's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Could you hear that over the speaker very well?
Yeah. Oh, well, he kind of spoke a little softly, so I didn't really hear him. I heard Blessing Rodriguez super clear, and I heard the second guy pretty clear too.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, we're going to do that. Don't know what movie we're doing next week, but it's definitely going to be fun. We're going to do Twitter polls, figuring out what we're going to do, and I'm definitely going to leave it up to you awesome people who listened to figure out what movie we're going to do next week. So thank you, everybody. Go subscribe. What?
Real quick. We got a few more minutes. I just want to, do you have any kind of idea what kind of, like, what you might want to do next time? I'm just curious.
Scream. Or Train to Busan.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I think Scream would be fun.
Well, a lot of people voted for Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to let them down, but a lot of people voted for 30 Days a Night. So that's why we did this one. But next week, like I said, it's going to be a lot more structured. We're going to feel more comfortable. It's going to be more laid out. It's going to be a really fun time. And we're going to do a lot of impressions, a lot of laughing, a lot of joking. And
Cool.
we really appreciate that everybody who stuck around and listened the whole time was here. And I can't wait to discuss things with all you guys. And being scared, I'm happy that we were able to do this together, my friend.
Me too, man. Thank you so much for inviting me. Super fun.
So if you haven't, I don't know how you can watch this if you haven't already, but subscribe to my channel, please. I would appreciate that. Also, please subscribe to Being Scared's channel because he's getting really close to 60,000 subscribers. Let's see if we can push him over there. And I'm getting close to 10,000, so help me out too. Also, you can go to my Patreon if you want to help support the channel. I know a few of you guys have already done that. So if you want to do that, that'd be cool. Also, I'm sure Being Scared, you have a Patreon too, right?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, if anybody wants to make the smallest of donations, we're definitely very happy to accept them. So thank you, everybody. Being Scared, thanks for being on, my friend. And we'll see you next time.
All right, man.
Okay, time to end this mother trucker if I can find it. Hold on. Okay, bye.